Hey, welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you're doing well. So today we're going to talk about what I think the future of the vintage watch world looks like within the short-term period. Just before we get started, a quick disclosure: this is not investment advice by any means. This is also just my opinion. This is not gospel. So if you have differing opinions, I would love to discuss them. If you want to write them in the comments, I would love to hear what you have to say about this topic. Again, these are my opinions, not gospel and not investment advice. And let's get into it. So this is specific to the vintage watch world, and obviously over the past decade, we've seen a huge jump in the value for many vintage watches. This price explosion that has occurred has kind of been buoyed by a lot of auction results, but also the further education of the vintage watch world and collectors today. If you want to go even further back, this has also been buoyed by the fact that that information has become a lot more tangible, being that we are using the internet a lot more, and there's a lot more information available for those out there. And because we have such a growing population of enthusiasts for watches, there's a lot of stuff that's being released into the stratosphere when it comes to watches. So within the last, I'd say, 6 months to a year, there has been kind of a slowdown in the price increases of specific models, and also the rate at which vintage watches are selling. I think the prices of specific watches have climbed so high from auction results, but also, in my opinion, from false perceptions of where watches should be priced, that that's the driving force is the auction, and also, in my opinion, false perceptions of where the prices of specific watches should be. I think people are trying to get their hands on any type of vintage watch that has any type of significance or importance within the vintage watch world, that they're kind of throwing any type of money at specific models that, in my opinion, they're just not making very informed decisions. And that's really making prices in general to increase across the board, just straight across. But there are specific places where things are not increasing in prices they're not increasing prices between models. So just as an example, I've seen people trying to sell vintage Rolex Datejusts for $4,000, $4,500, and in my opinion, I don't think that's really where the value of this is, again, my opinion. I don't think a vintage Rolex Datejust should be going for that much. I mean, you could add a little bit more money, and you could probably get look at purchasing an Explorer 2. The fact that it's moving so close to each other is really not, in my opinion, correct way of pricing, and that perhaps there is a little bit more inflation that's on specific models because they are a lot more tangible to some people. So now we're seeing ridiculous prices for watches that shouldn't be going for that much. Another great example is very simple Omega Seamasters, time-only pieces, stainless steel cases, nothing extravagant. I think should be going. This is what June of 2019. They should be going anywhere between $400 and $800. I've seen stainless steel models going for, or listed at $1,200, $1,800, almost $2,000 for stainless steel Omega Seamaster. There are some references that should be going for that much, but I don't think that's not across the board. So one, we're seeing ridiculous prices for certain models in the vintage watch world. Two, we're also seeing watches that are of lesser quality than a few years ago. I think this is because everyone who has purchased a vintage watch recently wants to hold it because they value it so much. So we're seeing lower quality watches being listed, and also there is just a lower quantity of watches out there that you can purchase. This is kind of a mix between lower quality and also lower amounts of good quality, a lower quantity of high quality watches. So because of those three factors, there's been a slowdown in the turnover of vintage watches, and I think we're very, very close to hitting a ceiling where prices of these watches cannot go any higher without some type of change in the market. So that's kind of the landscape of the watch world. Obviously, as you probably know, there has been a little bit of a slowdown in the global economy. We've been on the longest bull run in market history, and I think that has a huge effect on the luxury goods industry. So what I think what's going to happen is once we kind of hit that ceiling of the economic the economic world, we're probably going to see a recession hit us, and people are probably going to end up liquidating their assets, and we may see some higher quality watches come into the market at reasonable prices. Because we will be in a recession, you'll probably be able to negotiate those down quite nicely to kind of an equilibrium price where I think both the buyer and the seller can agree on. But that economic slowdown is going to affect the watch world, and that I think is going to be the catalyst to reset or correct the vintage watch market in order to really get those prices to where they should be, as opposed to being super high in the sky. I envision this beginning within the next 1 to 2 years, depending on how fast the economic slowdown, the global economic slowdown affects us. But I think that's definitely going to be the driving force of correcting our vintage watch market. And I see this happening, like I said, beginning within the next 1 to 2 years. Again, that isn't investment advice. I'm not saying that's going to happen by any stretch of the imagination. It is simply my opinion. I think this correction in watches will occur, and I think it's something that definitely needs to occur, because there is a ceiling. We can't continue to break price records continuously, and it will happen, and I think that's going to be good for the vintage watch world. So if you are someone who purchases watches as an investment, what I would do is I would probably give it a strong hold rating, or if it's something that's uber rare, I would try and sell it at a larger platform like Christie's or Phillips, at that type of watch auction, because you'll probably be able to fetch a much higher price now than you will in 1 to 2 years. You'll probably have to wait until the next run-up of watch prices occurs, and I'm not going to postulate when that's going to occur, but if it's uber rare, I recommend trying to find a nice platform. If you are an investor in watches, look for a bigger platform to sell it at. If not, I would give it a strong hold rating. Hold your watches, really enjoy the time that you have them on your wrist, because you probably won't see prices like this for the foreseeable future. So that's where I think the vintage watch world's going. It's very interesting to see where people think their watches are valued. I know that we all like to think that our watches are super highly valued, but you gotta be realistic, especially in comparison to the larger market. So if you've liked this video and you've made it this far, like I say, every video, give us a thumbs up. It really would help us out. And if you like this type of content, subscribe to our channel. It's very simple. You just click the button. That's it. Yeah, you'll hear from me every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We create videos on just about any type of topic. You probably have seen the content that we create is super broad. So I hope you guys like this video, and I hope you guys have a nice rest of your day.